I'm looking forward to sharing the acting scene with Cena, Rock, Roman. I'm coming for y'all. Y'all taking my roles, especially you, Cena. There was a commercial I auditioned for, and you stole that role. So, an attitude adjustment is coming your way. There's been a whole thing going on about a retirement tour. What retirement tour am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the "You Can't See Me" John Cena. That's right, the greatest of all time, hanging up his gloves at the end of this year, December 2025. And there's been a lot of talks and remarks and opinions and thoughts about his latest run with WWE as he gets ready to hang up his wrestling boots for good. Um, the reason why this conversation is coming up because John Cena recently lost to Brock Lesnar at Wrestlepalooza this September, and it got a lot of people fired up and frustrated. Why is John Cena going out the way he is? Why is he losing to Brock Lesnar? Why are the WWE not booking John Cena the way how he should be? So here's my thoughts. Let me break this down. John Cena was pushing 50 years old, same as Brock. No disrespect to those guys. They've done a lot of amazing work in terms of WWE and being outside of the wrestling ring as well. John Cena is a very selfless man. He's grateful for being the face of the company for over 20 years. And, for him, he knows how this business goes. And that's someone who's been a fan since, early high school and, even went to wrestling school for a short period of time. I know the grind that it takes. I know the ethics and the codes that come with being a professional wrestler. And someone like a John Cena, who is a company man through and through, he looks at the business. His heel turn, we'll address that in a second, but he looks at the product as a business and he looks at it as, passing the torch to the next generation. So before I get into the whole Brock Lesnar thing that just recently happened, let's talk about this heel turn. The heel turn everybody's been waiting for the last 10 years. Was it underwhelming to you? Well, here's the thing. With John Cena being a heel, I think it could have been done better. If I'm being honest, it could have been done better. But I think John Cena didn't want to truly turn into a Randy Orton type of heel. One, because he knows that his fan base is kids. He does a lot of Make a Wish foundations for kids. A lot of kids love him. I love him. Other adults older than me love him. But he knows that his target audience is family friendly. And for him, doing a heel turn doesn't necessarily mean he has to go over doing a Stone Cold Stunner, drinking beer, flipping the middle finger in the camera, cursing out, beating up women, hypothetically in wrestling terms, not, in that way. Um, there was a way for him to do the heel turn without having to cross that boundary. And especially being a public figure in Hollywood, he probably wanted to keep his brand on point while also showing a little edge. If you've seen Peacemaker, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, the heel turn, I think, a lot of things went wrong with it, not John Cena's fault. I think the whole Rock and Travis Scott angle that they had, and some of the other things that happened behind the scenes with all of that. I think it could have been done better. And I think his booking this year has been interesting to say the least. I'm super glad that they gave him the championship to break Ric Flair's record, to make him the longest reigning or the most successful champion in WWE history is something that he definitely deserved on his way out. And I think at this point, people got to realize John Cena, he loves his business. He loves himself. I'm sure his success he cares a lot about, but he also cares about handing the torch and passing the torch over to the next. It's a tried and true era, tried and true theme in wrestling. When you're on your way out, you put people over. The Undertaker had to do it. The Rock had to do it. Stone Cold had to do it. They all had to do. All the big names had to pass the torch because the sport needs the people that help build it raise up the next generation and let them take the reins. That's why Roman Reigns is killing them right now. Shout out to the tribal chief, even though he needs to acknowledge me. I'm saying that Paul Heyman, but on a serious note, though, I think John Cena's booking has been a point of contention for fans. But they got to look at it from this way too. John Cena doesn't want to go out winning every match. Why? We've seen that angle before where people complain, big match John, corporate John always winning, burying talent, the whole Wade Barrett angle that happened 10 years ago. I think John Cena knows that, being that this is his retirement tour, give the people and the fans what they want. They want to see John Cena for the last time in their city, and so he doesn't necessarily need to win every match, especially on his way out. It's not like it's a big secret; everybody knows he's on his way out. So I think with him losing to Brock, I've read the reports. I read the dirt sheets. I know John Cena was supposed to win, but he changed. The day of Wrestlepalooza, he went in and told Triple H, "No, have Brock win." And people might say, wait, Brock? Brock ain't no young up and coming talent. Why is John putting over Brock? Well, you gotta understand, John Cena's retiring. Brock isn't. Brock is going to be used to put over somebody else. So, John is giving the rub to Brock, even though he doesn't really need it. Brock or John Cena don't need to be passing each other rub. No diddy, but I think that Brock has a purpose. And, Brock is one of the greatest to ever do it himself, doesn't get enough credit. But I think that, with Cena, only having 6 days left, 6 dates left, I should say, his time is limited. His time is coming up and he knows that he's approaching the near end. And let's just give back to the business that gave him not only incredible fans, but a lifelong career, a lot of money, a lot of name value. They made him a household name. He went from sleeping in his car to being the face of one of the greatest sports entertainment promotions of all time. And so for him, he's selfish in his journey, and he knows that he's always going to be John Cena when he retires. He's always going to have the fan base. He's always going to have the name recognition, the power, the love, the legend status. It's already cemented. So for him at this point, let's use this time to train and give somebody else the opportunity to step up. Now that you know Roman is doing his thing, he's killing it, but let's raise somebody else up, who's a little bit younger, who can carry the generation next to that they're in, and maybe raise up the next generation after them. And so I say this to all say, yes, John Cena deserves to win some of the big matches that he's been losing. But you know what? We had a heel turn for the fans. He got to win his WWE Championship, making him the 17-time world record holder, in WWE history. And he's also going out and he's promoting and showing, that, even though on his way out, he can still go. And he's using his time to not be greedy, not be selfish, walk down that ramp, pin every opponent that comes in there, and walk off to the sunset with his hand raised. He's doing what every legend did for him. They went out, stand up at the lights, putting somebody else over and let somebody else carry the torch as they, move on to the next chapter of their lives. So, John Cena's the greatest to ever do it, and his career is to be lauded, applauded, celebrated. But you know what? He deserves at least one more win. At least let him win one more WWE. Come on, Triple H. Give Cena something. We don't want him losing every match going forward, but at least give him something, maybe over another legend, another icon, in the company, and then maybe, in December and his grand finale, I should say, he can use that time to give somebody the rub, stir up at the lights, as tradition say, and he'll still have a blossoming career in Hollywood going forward. And I'm looking forward to sharing the acting scene with Cena, Rock, Roman. I'm coming for y'all. Y'all taking my roles, especially you, Cena. There was a commercial I auditioned for, and you stole that role. So, an attitude adjustment is coming your way.